we're going to talk about all things financial aid tonight, so that hopefully you will leave here with a little bit better idea of what you and your student have got coming in terms of federal and state financial aid, so that then you can start to plan for whatever that financial gap is and where are those funds coming from. I will leave some time at the end. We can take some questions and things like that as well. But hopefully you'll get a lot of really good information tonight. But we're going to jump right in. And we're recording and doing everything, so give me a little bit to kind of acclimate to the whole thing. So senior year is super important, as you can imagine. And for a long time, I didn't really keep this slide in the presentation, but I just would have a lot of parents come afterwards and say, well, what are we doing now? What do we need to be doing? What do we need to be thinking about? So fall term for seniors. This is a time when you need to be checking in with ACT and GPA and make sure that you are on track for whatever your goals are, right? Not only to receive the state financial aid, but also to be a good candidate for scholarships at the school of your choice. And if you don't yet know what ACT and GPA college, your college of choice wants, requires, or is going to get you scholarship dollars, you need to be doing that research. Hopefully you've already done that for all of your colleges that you are looking at, and you have a good idea of where you're at and where you need to maybe improve. At this point, if we're needing to raise anything, GPA is really tough to raise senior year. You can move the needle a little bit, but if you are trying to get additional scholarship dollars, whether those are from the state or from your institution, retaking the ACT is going to be your best option in trying to raise that composite score. So focus on what you can do instead of what you can't do, all right? So taking those tests, applying to all of the colleges that you are interested in attending, and then getting feedback from those colleges to figure out what is the best fit. If you're not already taking college days and going to visit colleges, you need to plan to do that in this early part of senior year, because it's decision time, folks. It's time when you're going to be doing those applications, and then before you know it, you're going to have to make a decision about what's the best path for you. So be sure that you're in line to do all of those things to make sure that you're going to have what you need. Now, we did the Tennessee Promise application, and I can read everybody's mind already, and even if your student is not planning to use Tennessee Promise in any way, shape, or form, because they are going out of state, they are going to a 4-year institution that does not accept Tennessee Promise, they are going into the military, or they are going straight into the workforce, we ask every student, please do Tennessee Promise, because guess what? Life happens and things change sometimes. Tennessee Promise application doesn't in any way impact your other goals that you have, but it is a fabulous safety net in case something does change. And things happen all the time, and plans change, and it really doesn't have anything to do with a student decision or a student action or a family action. It's just life sometimes. So please encourage your student, if they've not already, to do the Tennessee Promise application so they have that safety net in place, all right? We're also going to be doing the FAFSA. It will open October the 1st, and it is working very well. We had some hiccups a couple of years ago when they changed the platform. They are steadily fixing those hiccups, and they've made some improvements this year that are going to be really good for students and families. So prepare to do that October 1st. I will say the biggest question that we had last year with the FAFSA application is, I think I had to have done something wrong because that was too easy, right? It is very seamless. It works very well about 98% of the time. If it doesn't work for you, it can be a bit of a nightmare to get it to work for you, but that's why we're here, right? To help you through all of those processes. So don't sweat it. Now, spring semester, after you come back from your Christmas break, it feels like a little bit of a slowdown for you because you've got a lot of those applications done. You've done all of your scholarship applications. You've done your college applications. You're starting to make final decisions about where you're going to go and what that's going to look like. And so it is kind of final decision time. But spring is also when we start applying for all of the local and private scholarships. So many of those dollars go unclaimed because students feel like, I don't meet the criteria, or I don't want to write an essay for $700. That's not worth my time. Every penny is worth your time, all right? So make sure that you are taking advantage. We owe it to those local and private donors because they're putting up money to help you meet your goals. And so take their money. That's what it's out there for, all right? Please be sure that you're applying for those scholarships. You are also then, very towards the end, you're going to be making final decisions, all right? This is also a really good time. You're going to be in really close contact with your school counselors all through this process. They are in contact with me very regularly. We do have some other dates set up to help you with FAFSA applications and things of that nature. So you have a lot of support. I'm not going to go through all of these terms. I'm going to hit a couple of highlights that I think are really important for you to know. The first one, cost of attendance. Cost of attendance is a published number that every college has on their website. And when they put that out on the website, that is the maximum cost that it might be for any student. So that is if you're having the highest meal plan and staying in the fanciest dorm. Not everybody's going to have that meal plan, and not everybody's going to be in that dorm. So your cost might be lower than the published cost of attendance. But that cost of attendance number is also the same number that you can use to calculate how much scholarship dollars can I get, all right? Because you can actually acquire in grants, loans, and scholarships up to cost of attendance. So it is an important number to know. Also, because a lot of students and even their families really do not know how much college will cost them at any particular college, please take some time to research this cost of attendance and then break it down to what it's actually going to cost you, all right? There are very strict limits on what students and parents can borrow to pay for college. And one of the most heartbreaking conversations usually comes around August the 1st when it's time to move into the dorm or get ready to go, and you realize, I have still a balance that I've got to pay before I can even start classes, and we haven't prepared for that, all right? Now, part of that preparation is not necessarily about finding more money, but potentially making a different choice in college, all right? It's a very hard conversation to have, which is why I encourage you to start having that conversation now. Don't wait. Start the conversation now. I think everything else, CPOS, that's another one. College Program of Study. All of this means is that when your student gets financial aid, whether that is from federal or state resources, that can only be used for the courses that are required for their major. Now, you may have a theater student who happens to love math, and they decide, I'm going to do my theater thing, but I'm going to take calculus 1, 2, and 3 while I'm here. Might as well. I really like that stuff. Well, state and federal funds are not going to pay for those math classes because they're not required for the theater major, okay? Be aware of that so you don't end up with a bill that you weren't expecting. Course Program of Study is what that's called. So here's just a visual, not going to go into detail, but just so that you can see some of the numbers. All right, and this is a little outdated. This is from a few years ago. But just understand that even if you're getting some federal and state aid, it's not going to cover the full cost, especially at our four-year institutions, whether they're public or private, doesn't really matter. We have some programs that will cover full tuition at the community college or the TCAT, and will help with tuition at some of our four-year schools. But they're not going to cover all of your expenses because we also have books and supplies and things like that that are not covered by any state program. So those are things that you need to plan for. A reminder or maybe a disclaimer, when we talk about financial aid, when anybody talks to you about financial aid, this is not only the free money that you can get. This also includes loans. And so if you're having those conversations and you have a recruiter or you have somebody at a college fair that looks at your information and they say, Well, you're in really good shape because your financial aid is going to cover 100% of your cost. You don't have anything that you're going to have to pay this semester. My next question is, break that down for me so I can see the itemization, because I want to know how much my loans are. How much of this is loans and how much of this is free money, all right? So that you have that information and you can budget appropriately. Now, we have different types of funds that students have access to. There's all of our free money that comes from scholarships. These are earned. You've done something that you did to get that scholarship, whether it's academic or performance or athletics. Whatever it is that you did, you can guarantee that you've got to keep doing it in order to continue to get that money each semester, all right? That's how scholarships work, but they are not loans. They don't have to be paid back. That's free money. Grants are free money, but they are based on eligibility. And this is something that you really can't control, because when we do the FAFSA application, we use prior year taxes, so taxes that are 2 years old. All right, so whatever your income level was 2 years ago, that's what the federal government's going to look at to decide if you qualify for any need-based aid. And so you cannot control that. You either will be eligible or you will not be eligible. It is a scale, so you might be eligible for some and not the maximum, all right? But that's not really anything you can control. Then, of course, loans are borrowed money, and I will just quickly say, student loans operate differently than other types of loans, and the federal government uses what we call continuously compounding interest, which means that interest is applied to your principal every single day. So we wonder why our student loans are so large after we graduate or after we finish our program of study. It's because that interest has been growing every single day since the day that you took out that loan. And if you decide on the 25-year repayment plan, guess what? You'll be paying off student loans when your grandchildren get on the school bus, all right? That's just how that works. And we can always do, a lot of times we'll do a breakout session on student loans in the spring. If y'all are interested in something like that, make sure that you let the school counselors know, and we'll make arrangements for that. Now, work study comes in the form of what we sometimes call academic performance scholarship. And so this is extra money that students can earn while they're on the college campus. It's a regular job. You'll work a little bit part-time, up to 20 hours. A lot of times, those work study programs kind of don't have a whole lot of work for you to do, so it's not uncommon for you to get paid to do your homework during those work study hours. If you have an opportunity to do that, I highly recommend that you do it, because it's a great way to also connect with people on your campus. Once they get to know you, they are a great resource for you to get other opportunities like leadership or additional scholarships. So let your financial aid office know that you're interested in doing work study. These are our 4 areas that we're going to tap to find money to pay for college. So I'm going to talk heavily on state and federal. I've already talked a little bit about the college and about private scholarships. And again, if you've got questions about that at the end, we can talk a little bit more on some of those. But I want to cover the programs that we offer from the state. So this is just the main ones. We have several others, but in a nutshell, these are the ones that we use the most commonly. So Tennessee Promise, we talked a little bit about, but it is a last dollar scholarship that's applied to tuition after all other federal and state aid has been applied. It is full tuition at our TCAT system, all of our community colleges, and we'll pay a portion at some 4-year schools that have an associate's degree program and have been approved to accept Tennessee Promise. Now, one of those schools is Carson-Newman. I don't know exactly what their tuition runs. It's around $29,000 a year. Folks, we are not paying $29,000. Okay, for students to go to Carson-Newman. We will pay whatever your student would have received here at Pellissippi, which is your local community college. So whatever your student would be getting there, we will pay towards the tuition at those 4-year schools that accept Promise. But it is not full tuition. It was kind of funny, the very first year that we did Tennessee Promise, and some of those rules weren't very clear, we had an enormous uptick in applications to Vanderbilt University because students and families thought that they were going to go to Vanderbilt 2 years free. It is not 2 years free college. It is up to an associate's degree, tuition covered by the state. All right, so that school must have an associate's degree program. Hope is what we see being used more often. This is a merit-based award. Students must have an ACT of 21 or higher or an unweighted GPA of 3.0. Either of those gets the student the Hope Scholarship. I will go over numbers as we get to some of those other slides. This is one of our most common awards, and so if your student meets that criteria, they are getting that money as long as they're going to an in-state school. There are no Tennessee scholarships that can be taken outside of the state of Tennessee, so you can only use them in-state. And these awards are automatically applied. So that means when you do your promise application, it does have some extra steps which I'll go over. You do what you're supposed to do and you complete a FAFSA application and let us know what school you want to attend. Those awards will automatically be in the system for your student to access when they enroll in that school. All right, you don't have to do a separate application. We also have another award called GAMS, General Assembly Merit Scholarship. This one requires a 29 ACT composite and also a 3.75 unweighted GPA. You do have to have both of those. If any student meets those benchmarks, they automatically get an additional $500, regardless of what type of school that they're going to, whether it's a 2-year or 4-year, a public or private, doesn't matter. They're going to get an extra $500 each semester. And then last on this slide is TSAA, which is Tennessee Student Assistance Award. This is a need-based award. So you must qualify for this based on your FAFSA results. So nobody will know if they get this until after you complete the FAFSA in October. But if you do get it, again, it's automatically awarded and there's nothing else that you need to do. It'll be there in your account at your school of your choice. All right, let's get into a breakdown of what you can expect to receive at different types of colleges, all right? So at our 4-year, both public and private, from a Hope Scholarship perspective, you're going to get $2,250 each semester. That's not including GAMS, all right? If you get GAMS, you're getting an extra $500 each semester. So the $2,250 is what students are going to get for the freshman and the sophomore year. When students get to their junior year, they're going to start receiving $2,850. They do get a little bit of an increase when they get to that junior year, and so you can kind of plan for that. We have other awards. I think TSAA I've talked about. TSAA at our 4-year school is $1,000 per semester, and that doesn't change at any point. It stays level. We really don't foresee any real increases to these amounts in the next probably 3 to 5 years, so you can kind of budget at this level for the entire 4 years and a little bit beyond it. I'll get into that if you have the opportunity to use Hope beyond the bachelor's degree. Aspire. Aspire is an award that we give to students who meet both Pell, FAFSA federal qualifications to receive need-based aid, and they also meet the Hope Scholarship requirements. They have to meet both. So this one's a little harder to get. All right, family income has to be less than $36,000 a year, and they have to be Hope eligible. Now, depending on what type of school that they're going to go to will depend on how much of this they get. At our 4-year school, you can see it's $750 per semester. 4-year schools are more expensive than 2-year schools, so this one's a little higher at the 4-year school, as is Hope as well. At our 2-year schools, Hope Scholarship is $1,600 per semester, up to that associate's degree. Now, students can continue at the community college for multiple semesters. They don't have to claim that associate's degree. As long as they maintain eligibility, they're going to continue to get that money, all right? Aspire, you'll see, is lower because cost at the community college is lower. Aspire is $250. GAMS is always going to be the same. It's always going to be that same $500. And then TSAA, again, $1,000 at the community college. And then when we get to the TCAT, you'll see it looks a little different, right? So at the TCAT, The awards that we have at the TCAT don't have any requirement in terms of ACT or GPA. So students that go to the TCAT automatically get Wild or NAEFI. They don't use the Hope Scholarship there, even if they've qualified for it, all right? They're not going to use Hope. They're going to get Wild or NAEFI, and it gives them $667 every trimester. Because our TCAT system is on a trimester, they go year-round, which gets them done and out into the workforce very quickly, which is why it's a very popular option for some students. TSAA can be awarded at the TCAT as well. Same amount, $667 per trimester. So you combine these, and it is about half of the cost of attending the TCAT. And so it's a good step in the right direction. But of course, at the community college and at the TCAT, Tennessee Promise is going to cover the balance of tuition for any student that completes that process, regardless of what that balance is, up to tuition. It's not going to pay for books. It's not going to pay for tools at the TCAT. It's only going to cover full tuition all the way up to degree completion, right? So to do Tennessee Promise, your first step is what we did today, right? We did that Promise application with a lot of the students, got that done. As we coach them in the classroom, when your student does the Tennessee Promise application and they have to choose a college, which might not be their first choice because not every college is listed on that Promise application, choose the college that you would most likely use Tennessee Promise dollars if something changed and you decided to use that scholarship, all right? When a student does the FAFSA application, it's going to override the Promise scholarship school of choice with whatever school you put on your FAFSA application, your first Tennessee school, which you should always put it doesn't have to be the first school on your FAFSA, but your first choice Tennessee school should always be in the top Tennessee spot on your FAFSA application. I hope that I just didn't make that more confusing than it needs to be. All right, for Tennessee Promise, the next step for students is completing that FAFSA application. You have a long time to complete the FAFSA. It opens on October the 1st. Please do this stuff, all of this stuff. Do it as quickly as you can. As soon as things open, as soon as you're able, knock it out, get it done, move on to the next thing, because you don't want to be procrastinating this, because the longer you take to complete these steps, the longer it will take your colleges to process how much money they're going to give you. So be very timely with this, get it done, and then you can sit back and just wait for the offers to pour in, right? So we're going to do FAFSA by March the 15th. You will have a mandatory meeting here at the school. Your county is served by Tennessee Achieves, so Tennessee Achieves organizes that meeting. They will let the school counselors know when that meeting is, and that will be published so that you will know. This is the mandatory meeting that we talk about. So be sure your student, this is not mandatory for parents. You don't have to be here at all, but it is mandatory for students. And if they are not here, they will lose their eligibility for Tennessee Promise. If students don't meet each of these benchmarks, they lose their eligibility for Tennessee Promise. And while there is some wiggle room on some of this, deadlines are deadlines. It's not like I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, the deadline is November the 1st. I'll do it at 12:05. That doesn't work. No. Deadlines are very hard deadlines on Tennessee Promise purposes. Now, I understand this year November 1st is like on a weekend, so they will forward that out. I think the 3rd is actually the Monday, but don't rely on that. Please just get it done, and that way you don't have to think about it anymore. Students will have to do 8 hours of community service each semester prior to the time that they receive their award from Tennessee Promise, for Tennessee Promise. And so for seniors graduating in May, that deadline is July the 1st. So you have several months after, and you can start now. You can start as of August the 1st, accumulating these 8 hours of community service. You're going to log those on the Tennessee Achieves website. If you just go to tnachieves.org, it's got it very well laid out. In fact, sometimes I will go to their website instead of the state website because I can find things faster there sometimes. So you can go there. It'll show you where to log, how to log. If you have problems logging in, let your school counselor know. They will let me know. We will get that fixed for you. That does connect that way. All right. This is a visual that I like to share just to give you some clarity on how Tennessee Promise is applied. All right. Again, last dollar scholarship after federal and state aid has been applied to your tuition. And so you see a couple of dotted lines. Remember, we talked about cost of attendance, COA. That is that number at the top dotted line that is going to include room and board and books and transportation and toiletries and dorm supplies, pizza 15 times a week, or whatever, right? It's all that stuff. And then tuition is only what you're paying to take the classes that you're going to take and any associated fees that go along with those classes. So Tennessee Promise will only pay cost of tuition, nothing above that. However, some students might not see Tennessee Promise even if they've done all the steps just exactly the way they were supposed to. Because if you have enough federal and state aid to cover your full tuition, you will get 0 Tennessee Promise dollars, all right, at least in that given semester. And so this student one that we've got on here, this student is receiving full federal aid and state aid that is need-based. And so they're getting a Pell Grant that's going to cover part of their tuition. They're getting TSAA, which is going to cover part of their tuition. So their tuition balance is 0. If that tuition balance is 0, then Tennessee Promise dollars will also be 0. All right? We see on the second student, this is a student who is also, in addition to some need-based aid, is going to get the Hope Scholarship. So we're actually going well above tuition to give you some money back for books and supplies, things of that nature. When we start to see Tennessee Promise kick in is when we have that student who's not getting need-based aid, right? We're applying whatever you're getting. Might be the Hope Scholarship, might not be anything like Student 4. Tennessee Promise is going to pay full tuition every semester up to the associate's degree as long as the student maintains their eligibility, all right? So all the way across the board. Like to define the difference between need and merit-based aid. We talked a little bit around that. So when you do your FAFSA application, it is going to determine if you are eligible for need-based aid. There is a whole formula calculation. It is aligned with number in the family and percentage above the poverty level. Folks, most of us are not going to qualify for need-based aid. While it has gotten better, it's definitely still not something that everybody should be counting on, right? Not a high percentage of families get need-based aid. Merit-based, on the other hand, are those scholarships that I talked about early. You've done something, you're going to get that. And so you want to be aware of those as you do your college budgeting and figure out what are we getting and what are we probably not getting. All right, so the FAFSA. We're going to jump. I'm not going to scare you with FAFSA. I'm going to give you some basics on FAFSA. And we'll probably come back at another time and take a little bit of a deeper dive into FAFSA, or I'm happy to answer questions about it too. So it will open October 1st at studentaid.gov. The students will need an FSA ID. Many of your students already made one today. All right, it's done. Students, how long did it take you to make your FSA ID? Students that were in that room. You were in the room. How long did it take you to do your FSA ID? Yeah, you. What, 5 minutes? Yeah, okay. Sorry, I put you on the spot. It doesn't take long to do it, all right? You're going to need some basic stuff for FSA ID. You're going to need your full legal name, your birthday, your social security number. That's about it. Phone number, email, not a whole lot. You can do an FSA ID if you do not have a social security number. You simply check the box that says, I don't have a social security number, and it will take you through steps that you need to do in that circumstance. There are a couple of extra steps, but it is laid out for you very well. So you can do an FSA ID. Parents can do an FSA ID without a social. Students must have a social or be a permanent resident with green card and the number attached to that. So it does require that. Our priority deadline, March the 15th. Your internal deadline should probably be about October 20th, right? Because we're using prior year taxes, you do not need to wait for you to complete your taxes this year so that you have accurate information. It is going to use your tax return from 2024. You've already done those taxes, so you're just going to use that. When you do the FSA ID, it's going to link you to your existing tax return in the IRS database, and it's going to pull that in for you. So yes, you will walk away from this saying, I must have done something wrong. It just didn't ask me hardly any questions. It already had most of what it needed, all right? It's going to have a handful of questions that you'll need to answer. Things like, how much money do you have in the bank, all right? Because that's not on your taxes, so they need to know how much cash you got. If I'm going to give you money to help you pay for college, I want to know what you've got to contribute, right? So there's going to be a few questions, but most of it is going to be automatically pre-filled. On studentaid.gov, studentaid.gov. And it is pretty straightforward. The login and creating an account is usually in the top right-hand corner, depending on what browser you're using. All right, just a reminder that FAFSA application has to be completed every single year. As long as your student is a student, you'll need to complete that FAFSA application, okay? All right, a lot of times, big question I get all the time, every year, we know that we make too much money, we're not going to get any need-based aid. Why do we need to do the FAFSA application? Well, a FAFSA is required for all of your state scholarships like Tennessee Promise, Hope, GAMS, any of those. Your college must have a FAFSA application on file before they can release any funds, whether that is athletic, performance, academic scholarships, or even other money that they may have set aside, all right? More and more, even our local and private scholarships are wanting a copy of not your whole FAFSA, but what's called your SAI, the Student Aid Index, which is a number that we use to determine where you're at on that scale of need-based aid. They're going to want that because they have certain parameters that they use to determine who they want to award scholarships to, all right? So you'll need to do the FAFSA. If you want money from anybody other than your own bank account, you should do a FAFSA application, all right? It's pretty much the only way to get it. When we're doing the actual FAFSA application, this is not for the FSA ID, right? So you're going to need your FSA ID for your student and for one parent. I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to look at each other and decide who's doing the FSA ID, who's going to be the FAFSA parent. Oh, you're on it. You just got elected, right? So one parent will need a FSA ID because if you married filing jointly on your taxes, only one parent is needed. Doesn't matter who is at the top on the FAFSA, on the taxes, doesn't make any difference. It's going to pull your taxes based on either of those parents. So you will only need one FAFSA parent. You're going to create that. Also, it is very handy to have a copy of your taxes with you when we sit down to do the FAFSA application so that we can make sure that everything is looking right. And if something is not working well on the FAFSA application, we can enter the information that we need to manually. That's always an option if the FAFSA is not doing what we want it to. So have these things with you when you sit down to do the FAFSA. It will make it much easier to get it done. Make sure that all of that, the FSA IDs are done. This year, and I've got a slide later on that's about this, but this year they have updated some of the platform, and when you create your FSA ID, it automatically verifies in real time. And what that means is in previous years, it might be 10 days. So you would do the FSA ID and have to wait for that to be verified, meaning that the Social Security Administration has to make sure that the information that you have, let's say that let's say my name is Erica, which it is, and I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself. My name is Erica Adams. But let's say that I fill out everything with my childhood nickname of Ricky, right? My legal name is Erica, but I put Ricky on everything. Well, when I put Ricky on that FSA ID, they're not going to find me because that's not my legal name, all right? So when you're doing these, make sure your full legal name, that's going to match you with Social Security Administration, all right? Very critical that you have that piece. Also with you when you complete FAFSA, it's just handy to bring bank account statements, or of course be able to go on to online bank account and see what that balance is, because that is one of the questions that you will get. Sometimes it's helpful to have your W-2, because if something's not working well or they want some information from that W-2, or if you're in a situation where you filed taxes jointly last year but now you're separated, then we will want the information from your W-2 to be able to fill in the income part, because we won't be looking at both incomes. We'll just be looking at one, all right? Anything that you think will be helpful. So I covered that already. And I know that this is a lot of like, we don't know what this is going to look like yet, so we really don't have a frame of reference for it. That's fine. When we get there, it'll come back to you and you will have help in doing all of this. All right. Last year, and the last 2 years actually, when students, this was kind of comical. It wasn't in the moment, but looking back. When students do their portion of the FAFSA application, it asks them to invite a contributor, which is the same thing as saying invite your parent, right? You're now called contributors, not parents. So invite your contributor. So in order for a student to invite the contributor, they had to have the parent email address and social security number. Like, that's going to happen, right? So students really couldn't make progress on their portion of the FAFSA application. They could get just a few questions done. And so now they have fixed this to where when a student does their portion, all they have to have is the parent email, and FAFSA is going to create a code that is linking that student and that parent together so that the FAFSA aligns, right? This is my student, this is my parent. And now when the parent logs in, they will automatically have that code, and it will link those two applications. It's a single application, but think of it kind of like a Y. There's the student section and the parent section, and then they come together, all right? So this is going to be really helpful for this year. These are assets that you must claim. We're not going to go into a lot of detail. Don't overthink this, all right? Some of you won't have any of these. Some of you will have all of these and be like, and what about this and what about that? Don't overthink it. We'll work on this as it comes. The only reason I highlighted the family farm and small business is because this is a relatively new addition. But OB3, one big beautiful bill, is doing away with that. But it doesn't take place until July of 26. And so for this year only, if you have a family farm or a small business, you will still need to claim that on your FAFSA application, but you only have to do it this 1 year. All right. We're winding down. Everybody take a breath, okay? So we have a website, and even though I trashed it a minute ago and said sometimes I go to college, Tennessee Achieves to look for things, some things I do. It has got an enormous amount of information, and so you can go to collegefortn.org. I have got circled for you the Tennessee Financial Aid, and so everything that I have talked about tonight, you can also find on that website. You can find eligibility criteria, continuation criteria, what to do if I've lost my scholarship criteria. Everything is there for you. We also have a section on FAFSA help. And so as soon as FAFSA opens, our team will start to put together live webinars that you can sign up and be on a live webinar. Or we will walk through the FAFSA with you and help you do it in a virtual environment, right? Lots and lots of help for you out there, all right? So don't fret this stuff, and don't hesitate to reach out for help if you're feeling stuck or if you're just intimidated. It's okay. It's your first year doing it. How many of you is it not your first year doing it? I've done this before. All right, everybody else, you all keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. Everybody else, look around the room and find a buddy, find a FAFSA buddy, all right? I've done this before. Have you all done it in the last 2 years? Yes? Yes? All right, there's your helpers, folks. There you go. You've got lots of help. There is my contact information, okay? You have me as well. Now, don't like call me for everything, but if you need help, if you're stuck, if you're not getting the answers that you need, either from your college or whatever source that you're going to, Miss Farrell has me on speed dial, I promise you. And so we will get your stuff resolved, all right? We work very well together. We work very closely together to make sure that you all have everything that you need, that your student has everything that they need, and make sure that this is a seamless process. And we will continue to do this until they start college, all right? Things don't end, just because they graduate. We're working through the summer to make sure that they have everything that they need there as well. I know that Ms. Farrell has got some dates to announce for you, but if you all have any questions about anything, yes?
Is there a list of local scholarships that we should be?
So you'll be able to find that on the school counseling website when they start posting, usually in the spring. Local scholarships.
Still January
Yeah.
or so. January is the very earliest, and that all goes out on their Google Classroom. Their Classroom 2026 Google Classroom. It's all announced to them on there. I have a Google sheet that's updated every time I get something, and I post it to them on Google Classroom.
All right, what's your question?
Okay, so she's gonna be graduating early in December.
Yes.
How does that change what she needs to do? Just we just get it done quicker?
So, well, yes, and choose that college and get those applications in. Your timeline is heavier. From a Tennessee Promise perspective, which is probably the one that has the most difference, you're going to do everything along with your senior class. The only difference that you're going to see is that you're going to need to do 8 hours of community service by April the 1st, not July 1st. That's going to cover you for the spring term that you go right after you graduate high school. And then you'll do another 8 hours by July 1st to cover you for fall. That's the big difference. And then if you're going to be HOPE eligible and everything, the school counseling department will send those scores to the state so that we know to go ahead and push out your HOPE scholarship to whatever college you're planning to attend. And if you run into problems with any of that, you let us know, and we'll make sure it gets fixed. Okay? Perfect. And remind me to talk about 5 years of HOPE, because I didn't specifically talk about that. Yes, what was your question?
We're looking at a program that's out of state, we do academic common market, so we
Okay.
pay state tuition.
Okay.
Can you do that? Do you get anything through there?
No, academic common market is a great thing because it does give you that in-state tuition, but unfortunately, you still cannot take your Tennessee Promise or your HOPE scholarship. None of your Tennessee money can go out of state. Now, that said, and for anybody else who is thinking about going out of state, it's a great negotiating tool. So if you're going to that admissions or scholarship department and you say, yes, but if we do a program in Tennessee, we're going to get X amount of dollars in state scholarships. Can you match that? Can you provide us an equivalent scholarship? Because we're choosing to come here. And trust me, you can negotiate because you have to, and I talk about this a lot in the classroom when we're doing a full senior seminar. Students need to realize that you are a commodity, all right? You are a marketing tool. You are all of those things. And the college of your choice is going to use every shred of data, including your picture, to promote their college for the rest of their life and your life. And so don't feel bad about asking for more money because they are going to get their money's worth out of you. Your success, your GPA, your earnings, all of those things are going to become part of their data, all right? And if you end up on the cover of something, your face too, right? Or if you become famous, they're really going to be flaunting you all over the place, all right? Any other questions before I quickly talk about that HOPE scholarship extension? Yes.
So if you qualify for the HOPE scholarship, but you go to Pellissippi.
Oh, you're still getting
You
paid.
take the HOPE scholarship with you. You take that first before.
All simultaneously. So all state aid, you start receiving, this leads into the 5 years, so this is good. All state aid, you begin using that state aid as soon as you enroll in an eligible institution, right? For Tennessee Promise, that enrollment is required by fall after graduating. You can take the summer off or you can start using it immediately in the summer if you want to do a summer term, right? But we're using those simultaneously. We're using Tennessee Promise and we're using HOPE at the same time. And let's say we're going to go to Pellissippi. So remember, Promise is full tuition after federal and state aid has been applied. So if I've got the HOPE scholarship, that $1,600 is going to be applied to my tuition, and then Promise pays the balance. But I'm using Hope from the very first day that I enroll in any eligible college, which is any Tennessee 2 or 4-year public or private. Does that answer your part? Okay. Do you have a follow-up question? Okay. I kind of look like, so 5 years of Hope. All right, students get their Hope Scholarship for 5 years. Now, I know some of the students, we talked about this in the classroom, have done a lot of dual enrollment, doing AP, doing dual enrollment at different colleges. You may have 15, 20, 21 college credits already, all right? That's less time that it's going to take you to get that bachelor's degree. Because students get Hope Scholarship for 5 years, you can start into a master's or even a doctoral level program and continue to use your Hope Scholarship until that 5 years expires. So we are seeing more and more and more students, as this information gets out, being very aggressive with their college studies while they are still in high school, graduating high school with an associate's degree or nearly an associate's degree, and they have Hope for 5 years from the time that they enroll in an eligible institution. Okay? Any final questions? All right. Ms. Farrell, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I just wanted to give you all some reminders of some things that are coming up. So we will have, our school counselors, me and Mr. Suttereth and Miss Wright. Miss Wright is back with us. She was here with us a few years ago, and she's back. So now there's 3 of us. So yay. So we are going to have individual meetings for seniors coming up. We wanted to have this meeting first, so you all kind of got all the same information about financial aid and all of that. So after this meeting, we're going to start having individual meetings with seniors, and parents are welcome to attend if you want to. You don't have to, but if you want to come, we want you to come. We're going to have a link so students can schedule a time to come meet with us, or you can come with them. So I will send that out when we get those links situated through email through Skyward. So you can sign up with your counselor. Our alphabet's kind of changed around a little bit. So Mr. Suttereth now has all students whose last names are A through G, and I have H through Q, and Miss Wright has R through Z. So we'll put that on all the things, but we will send some links so you can schedule a time to meet with us, because we want to sit down with all of our seniors individually so we make sure we have all of our questions answered and we know what our plans are and we're taking the right steps towards that. So that will be coming out to you a little later this week or maybe beginning of next week. So just be on the lookout for that through email if you want to attend. If you don't or can't, that's fine. We're going to meet with every senior anyway. So that's just there if you want to do it. This presentation is being recorded, and also I will send out Erica's presentation, the PowerPoint and all of that through Skyward as well. So that will be coming your way through email as well. So if you missed something or you need to go back and look at something or whatever, it will be emailed to you through Skyward. And Erica comes back a lot senior year, so she'll be here for FAFSA things in October. So we'll have appointment links sent to you to sign up for appointments with her to sit down and do the FAFSA if you feel like you need extra help with that, or just to have questions answered or whatever, because it can be intimidating. So she'll be back here October 16th and 17th for FAFSA stuff. Again, I'll send out links to schedule an appointment time, but those are the days that she's going to be back here on campus to do FAFSA stuff with us. And then she'll be back again at the end of January just to finish up some last minute FAFSA things if we didn't get things finished or need to, submit or get some extra stuff done. So we'll be doing that with her in January. And then I just got an email today about our Tennessee Promise meeting. So it's going to be November 17th is our mandatory meeting, and they're changing it back to during the school day. So it will be here during advisory on November 17th. We'll send lots and lots of reminders about all of that, and Tennessee Achieves people will send you all lots and lots of reminders about that. But it will be here during advisory on Monday, November 17th, so during school. So, and again, that, like Erica said, that meeting is mandatory to stay eligible for the Tennessee Promise Scholarship. So those are kind of some important things coming up. This is, a process that we're all walking through together for senior year. So that's why we wanted to have this meeting with Erica first, so we could kind of have some general financial aid and scholarship information, and then sit down with y'all individually so we can make sure we're all going in the right direction.